question of the day. What is your favorite game that everyone was playing when you got into gaming that said you must try this game? So for me, one of the number one ones was King of Tokyo, right? Popular game, still popular to this day, but it was very much like you have to try this game if you're going to get into the hobby. So today we're talking about a game called Godzilla Tokyo Clash from Funko. Now this is a somewhat, it's not area control, but it's more of a points getting game on a map, dudes on a map sort of deal, but you play as one of the 4 kaiju in the base game: Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, and then Megalodon? Yeah, that's right. And you fight. And you're throwing each other into buildings. You're throwing tanks into buildings. You're throwing, laser beams at each other. You're fighting. You're doing all this sort of stuff to see who is the most dominant king of the monsters at the end of the game. Whoever has the most points when the oxygen is taken out of the air to run the kaiju off wins the game. Let's take a look right now and see how this game plays. We'll come back to our final thoughts. Alright, so here is Godzilla set up for 2 players. We're using King Ghidorah and we're using Godzilla here. There's also Megalodon and Mothra, but what I want you to notice though is check out the amazing wash detail that's on these. So these came with this wash on them already, and it really pops. You don't even need to paint them, especially Ghidorah and Godzilla, because that really, really looks good. I would put a little eye color, maybe some blue in the mouth, but other than that, no need for painting. You'll set the board up as it shows based on the player count. You'll put this center token here, and this tower will go on it. Each of these spaces requires you to place a large building on it, whether it be a radar dish, tower, power plant, or military area. They all do certain things when they're destroyed. You'll place your characters on the tiles across from each other based on the instructions. If a large building is in the tile space based on where you're supposed to start, you have to rotate the tile to where you're not standing on a large building. Small buildings are okay. The point of the game is you're going to be playing with your deck of cards against their deck of cards, and it's 5 cards hands. Typically, you will get things to mitigate and boost that, and you're going to be using these cards on your turn to move and attack. You can also play some as enhancements, which go below your board down there to kind of boost you when you do things. Now, each monster or each kaiju has a certain special ability. Godzilla can throw vehicles and kaiju 1 space further, damaging things better, maybe maneuvering things, because when you damage these buildings and destroy them, you gain the energy. The energy is this track at the bottom of your character card here, at which all of the cards that you want to play cost energy, except some of them. Some of them don't. Something like this one is just move 3. Momentum is a key word that means you can go ahead and play another card. So on your turn, you can play a card, you can do the discard ability that's down here, or you can pass. You're going to keep doing this until the game ends. Now, essentially, the game has this many rounds based on player count. When the oxygen remover token here gets to the game end, now it could be here, but most likely it's going to be earlier, because in 2 players, every small building, that's these little blue things here, that gets destroyed is going to start stacking up on here to where when these cross each other, the game is over. And that's how the game's played. Now you'll also put 2 event cards down, and there are more than 2, but you start with 2, and these are the 2 starters it recommends, but there are more over here. These are going to set up different things on the board. For instance, this sets up tanks and trains, which you'll notice trains are on the train tracks, and I'll tell you to set those, and tanks are here. They'll activate every round too and give you some specific things how to activate these event cards. So it kind of populates the boards and makes it to where, yes, you 2 are fighting each other, but there still is a living city below you trying to stop whatever's happening above them with this giant fight. When you play in action, you can throw vehicles at buildings. You can throw vehicles at kaiju. You can throw kaiju at stuff and hurt them. The difference is when you take damage, because you are playing for points in this game, you're playing for dominance points, which would be these symbols down in the bottom right with the crown on it. Now, if you're the first player, the king of the monsters, you're going to already start with 2 dominance points, but anytime you get attacked and damage is taken, this switches hands. But when you take damage, there is no damage meter. Essentially, what's going to happen is you're going to take as many damage cards off the top of their deck. So let's just say we damage King Ghidorah for 2. 1, 2. You'll then choose one of these for its dominance value. So we'll pick this one. We have 2 points at the end of the game. It essentially takes it out of their deck as well. So that's how you damage each other. So you're not trying to knock each other out. You're playing until the oxygen remover meter hits this level, and then whoever has the most points wins the game. Just to go over really quickly the special powers, I do love that you have all 3 heads available here, and it makes the attacks better for him, as well as Mothra and Megalodon, which he's the one I'm least familiar with. But it has, before drawing a new hand each round, you may discard one card from your discard pile and place it on top of your deck, essentially setting yourself up for success. And then you can read here, after drawing your new hand for the round, choose a building in an adjacent space and gain all the benefits other kaiju would gain for destroying it. You're not affected by jets, tanks, and battleships. So pretty neat. You can just absorb power that way. There are not a lot of rules to the game, but I wanted you to notice, look at the art style of this game. It's very interesting how it's purposely worn and weathered. I think that's a really neat presentation. So that's how you play Godzilla. Again, there are other event cards that are going to change it. Just to show you really quick what those might be. You've got airstrike, so the planes will come in, shows you how to set them up on the back, and then kind of how they activate on the front. But the art is just tremendous in this game. So a lot of things you can do. And then as you play 4 players, the game will expand out with more tiles over here. Each of the building types, once destroyed, will give you a different benefit. They're all going to give you 2 energy, but for instance, the tower gives you 4 energy. Military bunker lets you take a card from your discard and put it on top. Power plant, draw a card, and the radar dish lets you look at the other player's hand. So interesting way to do that. The only other thing that would matter is that when you're attacked, you can play a card with a defense value to mitigate that attack. So if they're attacking you for 2 damage, you can play this to mitigate it completely. The other little tricky rule is when you're getting a dominance card trophy, let's just say we pulled these 2 cards out. Neither of them have a dominance value, which means you don't keep a trophy, which means they withstand the attack. That's how you play Godzilla, right there. So that's Godzilla Tokyo Clash. Now, it is a gorgeous looking game. This is one of the best mass market games I have ever seen because so much thought was put into the board itself. The tiles look great. The individual little cardboard tiles look great. The miniatures are fantastic. Not only are they great miniatures, they're already washed, and so they look just so good. Just having that little bit of wash on them really adds a whole new level to their texture, to their quality, to their look. When you walk past this on the table, it looks customized even though it's not already. And that's a huge selling point, especially considering the low price point of this game in the first place. Such a good value. And then there's the art look of it, how everything looks old and tattered as if you got this out of a time capsule from 1980 or 1979. Just a tremendous looking game. It's one of the best mass market games I have ever seen. And I mean that. It's very, very, very good looking game. Now, how does it play? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. You're drawing cards, you're fighting with these cards. It feels a little bit like the original Epic Duels, right? Which is now, you know, unmatched. Feels a little bit like that. You're using your cards to move around and attack, but you're then picking up stuff and throwing it in buildings to gain points. You're gaining energy to use better cards. You're using all 3 of Ghidorah's heads to shoot energy. You're Mothra and you're taking the abilities from stuff by you. It's really well thought out. I can't give enough praise to this game because it's so simple, but it's so good. It knows what it is. It doesn't try to do anything over the top. It's not trying to say we're the best fighting game of all time. It is such a user-friendly experience to where you can get people in who maybe they just saw one of the movies and they're like, oh, what is this Godzilla thing? It's such an easy game to get people in the door with because it's so simple to learn. It's so simple to maneuver and use your characters and players, and it's so rewarding to look at. So all in all, it's a win of a game. Very good. It cannot take that long either, considering how the end game works. You move that up, but you're constantly blowing up those buildings and throwing stuff across. So really well thought out game, really well done game. Godzilla Tokyo Clash. I would love to see more of this. I'd love to see more add-ons, expansions, all sorts of stuff, different kaiju from different universes in this system because it just works so well. And again, partially because it reminds me of a much simpler time of, you know, Epic Duels and stuff like that. So huge fan. Tokyo Clash, great game, great game, and an excellent price point, excellent looking game. So I'm Brian Drake here on the Dice Tower. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, etc. at Dice Tower Brian. I'll see you on Monday on the Spectacular. As you're watching this, it'll be tomorrow. Yeah, see you tomorrow.